The Korean Mafia boss abandoned me at the Gala. His rival covered my shoulders, and his empire panicked. The Grand Siora Hotel's rooftop ballroom cost more to rent for a single evening than most people earn in a year. I know because Han Min-jae told me this in the car on the way here. The way you tell someone a thing to remind them how fortunate they are to be included. The room was everything money could arrange. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars. Tables draped in cream and gold. The city laid out 40 floors below us through floor-to-ceiling windows, glittering and enormous, like a map of everything the men in that room believed they owned. But I was alone. I had been standing near the tall windows for 31 minutes. I knew because I'd been watching the clock on the far wall, the way you watch something when you are trying to look like you are not waiting. Min-jae had left me 11 minutes after we arrived. No argument, no raised voice. He had simply placed his hand briefly against my lower back for the photographers near the entrance. Warm enough to look real, brief enough to feel like a performance, and then leaned close to my ear. Stay here. There are people I need to speak with. Then he walked away with the unhurried certainty of a man who had never once had to look back to confirm the world was following him. I stayed. That was what I did. I arranged myself near the windows in my midnight blue gown with my shoulders bare and my glass of champagne, and I waited with the posture my mother had taught me. Chin up, back straight, like dignity was a garment you chose every morning regardless of what the day decided to do to you. Around me, the most powerful people in Seoul moved and laughed and whispered. I had spent 4 years learning to read this room. Who bowed first? Who spoke last? Who turned slightly away from someone they once owed a favor? I had learned it to survive it. The wife of Han Min-jae was expected to decorate his world without asking it questions. I watched a woman in emerald touch her husband's arm when he said something that made her laugh. I watched Min-jae across the ballroom, near the champagne tower, bend his head close to a woman in silver. He did not touch her. He was too careful for that. He simply lowered himself close enough for her smile to know it was wanted. I looked away. That was when I saw him for the first time that evening. Kang Tae-oh stood near the bar on the far side of the room, and I do not know why my eyes found him in a crowd of 200 people. Except that stillness in a moving room pulls attention, the way silence pulls attention in a loud one. He was not performing anything. That was what I noticed first. Every other man in that room was performing. Confidence or power, or ease or wealth. Tae-oh was simply standing there with a glass he had barely touched, watching the room with the patience of someone who had already decided how the evening would end. He was wearing black. All of it black. Jacket, shirt, no tie. His hair was pushed back from his face. The line of his jaw was clean and sharp in the chandelier light. Then he turned and looked directly at me. Not the way men look at women at galas. Scanning, assessing, moving on. He looked at me the way you look at something you have already made a decision about. Slow. Absolute. Like the looking itself was a kind of statement. My breath caught in my chest before I could stop it. I looked back at my champagne glass and told myself it meant nothing. 3 minutes later, I felt the weight settle across my shoulders. Dark fabric, warm from another body. The collar adjusted with 2 hands that were steady and deliberate and completely unhurried. The ballroom changed, not loudly. Nothing in that room happened loudly. But I felt the shift. A breath held somewhere, a laugh cut short, the particular quality of silence that falls when a room full of powerful people all understand something at the same time. I did not turn around. You looked cold, he said. 4 words, nothing else. Then he stepped away, and I stood in the center of the room wearing Kang Tae-oh's jacket while my husband stood 30 feet away beside a woman in silver, and the entire ballroom quietly recalibrated everything it thought it knew about this evening. If you have ever stood in a room full of people and understood that your pain was visible to everyone except the one person responsible for it, drop your city or your country in the comments right now. Because what happened in that room next is the reason I am standing here telling this story. I did not remove the jacket. That was the first choice I made, small, quiet, but mine. Near the windows, a man I recognized as one of Min-jae's council members pulled out his phone. His thumb moved fast. I watched the message travel across the room, invisible, instant, until Min-jae's phone lit up against his palm. He looked down, read it. His left hand tightened on his glass, just slightly, just enough. He looked up and found me across the ballroom. His eyes moved to the jacket. For the first time all evening, my husband looked fully present. Level 1. Controlled. Still. The most dangerous kind of jealousy because it had not decided yet what to do with itself. Teo returned to my side 10 minutes later, not from behind, from the left, where everyone could see him approach. He held a glass of water, not champagne. Water. He handed it to me without asking if I wanted it. I took it. He stood close enough that the room understood his position, far enough that nothing could be called inappropriate. "You're still here," I said quietly. "So are you," he said. His voice was even, almost boring in its steadiness, except that nothing about Kang Tae-oh was boring. I had been in enough rooms with dangerous men to know the difference between a man performing calm and a man who simply was. He was watching the far side of the ballroom. "He's coming back," Tae-oh said. "I know. You don't have to be here when he arrives." I looked up at him. Up close, his jaw was sharper than it had appeared across the room. There was a small scar at the edge of his left eyebrow that I had not noticed before. His hands, I saw now, had the particular stillness of hands that knew what they were capable of and had made peace with it. Something moved through my chest that I did not have language for yet. "I've been standing in places I shouldn't have to stand for 4 years," I said. "I'm not moving for him tonight." Teo looked at me then. Not the way he had looked at me across the ballroom. That had been a calculation. This was something different. Recognition, maybe. He almost said something. I felt it. The breath before words. Then Min-jae's hand closed around my elbow from behind. "Amara." His voice was quiet, the kind of quiet he used when he wanted me to understand that loudness would not be necessary. Min-jae stepped around to face me. He was beautiful in the way he had always been beautiful, sharp and controlled and put together with the precision of a man who understood that appearance was authority. But something under the surface of him was moving in a way I had not seen before. Teo had not moved. The two men looked at each other across the 6 inches between them, and the air went the specific temperature that air goes when two powerful things occupy the same space. "Walk away, Kang," Min-jae said. "I did," Teo said. 2 words, final as a door closing. Min-jae's jaw tightened. Level 2, the displaced action. Not addressing what he actually felt, but coming back for the jacket instead. "Take it off, Amara." I looked at him. "No." That word moved through the space between us like something physical. He stepped closer. His hand came toward the collar of the jacket, not to grab, he was too controlled for that, but to lift it from my shoulders himself. I reached up and took hold of the lapel first, not to pull it away, not to fight him for it, just to make clear, quietly, in front of every important person in that room, that the next decision about this jacket would belong to me and not to him. He stopped. His hand was 3 inches from mine and he stopped completely. In 4 years, I had never reached for anything in his world before he offered it. I had waited to be included. I had adjusted myself to the edges of his rooms and his evenings and his silences. The 12 people closest to us saw it. And I watched something shift in Min-jae's eyes. Not anger, not embarrassment. Something he did not have a name for yet because it had never happened to him before. He was recalculating. What would you have done? Would you have let him take the jacket or held on? Tell me in the comments, because that 3-second moment, my hand on that lapel, his hand stopped in the air, was the moment everything in that room changed direction. Teo said something close to Min-jae's ear. I did not hear it, but I watched the colour leave the edges of my husband's expression. 30 seconds later, Min-jae's lawyer, a small, severe man named Mr. Beck, who existed near events rather than inside them, appeared from the side entrance with his phone pressed to his ear and the specific expression of a man who had just received information that changed the shape of a situation. Min-jae looked at him. "What trust?" he asked. That was my first indication. We moved to a private gallery behind the ballroom. Long room, oil paintings, tall windows. The music from the gala became muffled. The city glowed outside. Min-jae stood across from me, And for the first time in the 4 years I had been his wife, I saw him uncertain. "Someone explain," I said. Teo spoke. "Your father funded the first expansion of Han Consolidated before your husband took full control. The original agreement granted your father silent equity in the foundational trust, not the public company, the structure beneath it." Min Jae's face hardened. "That is not 38%, Teo said. The room tilted. 38%. Not a token. Not a historical footnote. A foundation. My father's money beneath the floors I had walked through as a tolerated guest. My inheritance beneath the empire that had spent 4 years treating me like furniture. 38% did not make me a guest in his world. It made me one of the people his world had to answer to. I looked at Min Jae. "You knew," I said. He answered too fast. "No." That quickness told me everything. I turned to Bayek. Did he know? The lawyer's loyalty fought fear across his face. Fear won by a narrow margin. Madame Han knew. There it was. His mother. The woman who had called me fortunate for 4 years. Fortunate to be chosen. Fortunate to belong to a family like theirs. Fortunate to be protected, while knowing that my father's money was woven through the foundation of everything they had asked me to be grateful for. Min Jae's expression shifted through anger, then control, then something colder, and more honest. Level 3. Direct confrontation, but too late to be anything but damage control. "Teo is using you," he said. "This is a move. He has been waiting for an opening." "An opening you gave him," I said. Min Jae went silent. "You left me standing alone in that ballroom," I continued, "in front of everyone who matters in this city. You walked away from me like I was something you had already finished with." I let the words settle. "You gave him every inch of this." His jaw worked. "I didn't know about your father's shares." "I know." I kept my voice even. "But you knew enough to be cruel. You didn't need documents to stay beside me. You didn't need legal records to remember I was your wife." He had nothing to say to that. For the first time since I had known Han Min Jae, the room did not fill itself back up with his authority. The gallery doors opened. Madame Han entered in black silk and pearls, composed until her eyes found the jacket on my shoulders. Then something shifted in her face. Not fear, she was too controlled for visible fear, but the particular recalibration of a woman who realizes her plan has encountered a variable she did not account for. "Take that off," she said. I looked at her. I thought about 4 years of careful voice and softer tone and corners I had made myself small to fit into inside her house. "No," I said, her mouth pressed thin. Grace Park arrived 7 minutes later with 2 colleagues and 3 grey folders that contained the specific kind of information that does not require emotion to be devastating. She introduced herself to me first, not to Min Jae, not to Madame Han, to me. "Ms. Vale, I represent the independent administrators of the Vale Foundation Trust. Ms. Vale. My father's name in that gallery. Not Han. Not Mrs. Han on a guest list or a seating card or an invitation to a room I was permitted to decorate but never to own. Vale." He was not gone. Not completely. Not while his name still carried weight in rooms that had spent 4 years trying to make me weightless. Min Jae looked at the documents, then at me, then at Teo. I watched regret arrive. Not soft regret. Not the kind that comes with flowers. The specific, irreversible understanding of a man who has just seen the full shape of what he threw away in front of everyone important enough to remember it. He stepped closer to me. His voice dropped. "Amara." My name in his voice sounded nothing like it had for 4 years. It sounded like something he was afraid of losing, like something he had only just realized had value. He reached for my hand, not to command, to ask. I felt it. The almost, the breath of it, his hand near mine, the way the gallery light fell across his face, the ghost of the man I had married underneath the man he had chosen to become. "I can explain," he said, quietly. "I can make this right," I said. He stopped. "You cannot make this right," I said. "You can manage the consequences. Those are different things." His hand dropped, and the almost closed. When I walked back into the ballroom, I did not go with my husband. I entered alone. The music was slower now. The chandelier light turned everything amber. People turned the moment I came through the doors. The jacket, the lawyer behind me, Min Jae, a full step back, following his own consequences through the room he had built. I walked past Director Cho, who lowered his eyes. I walked past a woman who had ignored me at 3 consecutive dinners, who now gave me the small, careful nod you give someone when you realize you have been looking at them wrong. Then I saw Sarah. She was still near the champagne tower. The silver dress that had looked like victory an hour ago looked different now, like costume, like something that had been chosen for an occasion that no longer existed. She looked at the jacket first, the way everyone did. Then she looked at Min Jae's face as he walked behind me, and I watched the expression she had been wearing all evening, that composed, patient certainty, come apart at the edges. She had wanted my place beside him. She had not understood what that place was standing on. Her eyes found mine for 1 second. I did not smile. I did not look away. I simply kept walking. Min Jae reached me near the center of the room. "What do you want?" he asked, quietly, genuinely, like the question cost him something real. Once I would have had answers. "I want you to come home. I want you to choose me when it costs you. I want you to stop letting your mother speak to me like I am temporary." But those answers belonged to a version of this marriage that no longer existed. "I want my name back," I said. "Amara." "Vale," I said. He went still. I took off my wedding ring. Not dramatically, not with ceremony. The way you remove something that has quietly become too tight without your noticing. I placed it in his palm and felt his fingers close around it. Reflexive, too late. Then I walked away. Not toward Teo. That surprised people. I saw it in their faces. They had written the cleaner story already. Wife leaves husband for rival. One dangerous man exchanged for another. But I was done being other people's narrative. Teo was near the exit. When I reached him, he did not offer his arm. He inclined his head. "Miss Vale." I stopped. "Your jacket," I said. His eyes moved across it once, unhurried. "Keep it." "For tonight?" "For as long as you need to remember that the first person who treated you like you were worth something in that room," he said quietly, "was you." Outside, the night air was cold against my face, but not against my shoulders. A black car waited at the curb. I stood under the hotel lights and looked up at the city my husband had spent 4 years telling me was his. My phone lit up. Min Jae's name on the screen. I watched it glow until it stopped. Then I stepped into the car, my father's name restored to my life, Teo's jacket across my shoulders, and the specific lightness of a woman who has finally put down something she should have set down a long time ago. I did not leave as Han Min Jae's wife. I did not leave as Kang Tae-oh's rescued woman. I left as Amara Vale. And for the first time in 4 years, that was enough. If this story stayed with you, if you have ever kept something on your shoulders to prove you were done being invisible, subscribe right now. Drop your city or your country below and tell me the exact moment you knew Min Jae had already lost her. This channel is for every woman who was left standing in a room full of people and still refused to fall apart for the audience. More stories are coming. Stay with me.